I tell you what, guys, there is no topic old enough. There is no subject done and dusted and fucking figured out at this point that the Democrats will not bitch and moan and fucking whine about, okay? Like, we're going to get into all of the audit situations very, very shortly. But first and foremost, we got to lay out the parameters in which we have to deal with our adversaries at this point. I don't even know, because it's kind of the elite institutionalist types, sorry, like you got right here, center of the screen, right there, Sheldon Whitehouse. The last time we heard from him, he was just coming back from one of his Klan rallies in Rhode Island, and yeah, it was that country club that's like, what, 105% white, something like that, something he said, I'm gonna talk to those people up there, we're gonna work on diversity, and then one of the reporters followed him back. It's like, sir, Mr. Whitehouse, have you worked on any of that? Oh, they have a long tradition of being racist, so I'm not about to step in their way or get in front of any of their plans. Fuck that. No, just let me go and beat the little black servers and set my crosses on fire. So nice of him to just wear his Klan hood everywhere. That's a shocking white rug that he's got going on there. Anyways, yeah. FBI failed to fully investigate Brett Kavanaugh. Not from the FBI, not from any deep state organization. Oh, kind of, from swamp creatures. The Democrats say. Why are you bringing this up? I know why. I know exactly why you guys are bringing this up right now. Because you guys are going to be moving on to your pet project very, very shortly, right? Because there was a commission a few months ago that was assembled by a Joe Biden executive order that was looking at expanding the courts. Yeah, you guys probably forgot about that. I didn't. I'm giving you guys too little credit. I'm pretty sure some of you, most of you, probably did remember that. And yeah, they're just working their way into that next one because there's a way to get rid of any of the current sitting justices. They want to kind of explore that before they want to go full force with packing the court. But yeah, according to Sheldon Whitehouse and other Democrat officials, the FBI didn't do their due diligence when the FBI had 4,500 tips, most of which concluded with, yeah, in college, he got drunk and threw ice across a bar. Okay. He might have attended a house party, just not the one that Christine Blasey Ford claimed that he did, because the house doesn't exist on the road that doesn't even have an address. And this happened like 40 some odd fucking years ago. But yeah, no, the FBI didn't fully hop in their DeLorean and then go back into the past and investigate this totally legitimate thing that definitely 100% happened. Okay, FBI agents in 2018 gathered over 4,500 tips related to the investigation into then Judge Brett Kavanaugh, but failed to follow up on them. Senate Democrats charged on Thursday. Like I said, it may seem a little bit weird, but it makes total sense. The FBI set up a tip line for Kavanaugh during the Supreme Court Justice's nomination process. Call in now. The 13th caller will get free tickets to see Foghat, and received over 4,500 relevant tips. FBI Assistant Director Jill Tyson told senators in a June 30th letter made public this week, June 30th of 2018. I don't really care. I don't care at all. However, the FBI appeared to merely pass on the information to the Office of the White House Counsel, which had requested an investigation and later a supplemental probe. The process ranked Democrat senators who accused the FBI of being politically constrained. Oh yes, we weren't allowed to muddle in a whole bunch of other international affairs, but now that Orange Man gone, we can go back to being the most irrelevant major institution in the country. If the FBI was not authorized to or did not follow up on any of the tips that it received from the tip line, it is difficult to understand the point of having a tip line at all. They wrote in a new letter to FBI Director Christopher Wray, who is Trump's director, and then Biden kept on because he's a swamp creature. You get it now? You start to see the uniparty in action? Senators asked for documents regarding the arrangement, including how the FBI determined a tip was relevant. I would very much like to know that too. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse said the FBI's action showed up the tip line was equivalent to a garbage chute to the White House counsel desperate to cover up the facts. Very ironic, very choice phrasing there because it just reeks of projection, but hey, whatever. In his demanding answers along with Senator Chris Coons. Oh my God. When you can do a convincing comb over, Chris, I'll start to take any of your advice seriously. Dick Durbin. Ugh. Patrick Leahy. Richard Blumenthal, Mazie Hirono, and Cory Booker. Ugh. What a who's that of absolute buffoons in the fucking Senate. But these are the people. These are the people that are screeching from the fucking rafters. We have to go back. We have to turn over every stone, everything that Orange Man could have covered up. But then again, don't look at the 2020 election. There's nothing to see there. You're just all corrupt. You're all crooks. Yeah, well, guess what? We know of what Fulton County's going under an audit. Maricopa County in Arizona's undergoing an audit. Wisconsin's setting it up. Pennsylvania's looking at taking things over. We'll get to them in a second. And now Texas is hopping on board. Texas is going after specific districts. They aren't going to do the entire state. It was never really in question by either sides. They are purposefully just looking to dot I's and cross T's. You shouldn't elicit any response, right? If they're just going to be going over and making sure that everything was on the up and up with the election, right? Of course. So what are they going to be looking for? Well, Texas state Republicans seek forensic audit of ballots in the 13 largest counties. Oh, if they're going to be looking at the largest counties in Texas, oh my God, I think that's like the only places where Democrats got to bulk the votes. Ooh, okay, interesting. Let's see where this goes. Amid Democrat obstruction in Texas of state GOP attempts to pass election reform measures. Oh, don't worry. They're going back, guys. They're going to be working on that plan. Day after they stopped releasing all the COVID stats, yeah, they just decided, yeah, no, we're just going to go ahead and hop back on a plane and go down there to the legislature, and they're going to work close, hand in hand, in fact, with Republican lawmakers as well to really suss out what they can try to do. I don't know what they're going to be working on because they don't have the votes. You're just going to have to sit there and fucking deal with it. You can't filibuster them. They have a big enough majority to override that in both houses, so I don't think your input's very valuable in this certain field. But anyways, Texas State, that's what happens when you combine the two. Texas State Representative Steve Toth of Woodlands, Texas, introduced House Bill 241, the Voter Confidence Act of Texas. The governor, lieutenant governor, and Speaker of Representatives, shall appoint an independent third party to conduct a forensic audit to general elections that took place on November 3rd, 2020. Toth's House Bill 241 reads, the two-page bill, targets forensic audits in 13 counties with 415,000 or more residents. Prior to the special session, I met with constituents across District 15 and South Montgomery County. The Texas Voter Confidence Act is a product of those meetings and a direct request from the voters who sent me to Austin, Toth told the Texan. Texans want to know more about the claims of voter fraud and deserve to have confidence in their elections. They certainly do. The audit will have to begin before November 1st, 2021, be completed by February 1st, 2022, and a report due by March 1st, 2022, according to the bill. Already has procedures in place and got guidelines to follow. Everything seems to be in line. I couldn't imagine what the problem would be with this one. Representative Toth's proposed bill is timely and necessary, with a view to exposing any instances of fraud during the 2020 election, regardless of which race is affected, because, hey, if we're going to be looking out for the health of our democracy, don't you just want to make sure that there is no incompetence or, God forbid, any malice along the way? Wouldn't that be something that both parties would want to expose? It would seem like anybody in Texas, anybody who was on the ballot in 2020, would have a vested interest in this. I'm sure some Republicans are probably in some of those districts in those counties that are going to be audited, and they'd like to make sure that their win is either legitimate or if there are questions about how they need to be going about the election process going forward. Because as you know, and I've been very vocal about this, even if Trump came out and it was proven that he won all 50 fucking states, including Greenland and Canada. They all voted for him in the previous election cycle. Okay, cool. The inauguration's already happened. and he wouldn't, just because anything would have been a little sus with any of the accounting in the situation, he wouldn't immediately get installed. You'd have to go through the impeachment process, and you'd have to impeach just about everybody on fucking earth before you ended up with Trump again, okay? The best hope is to flip the Senate and flip the House in 2022. Trump runs again with DeSantis in hand in 2024, and we can all just kind of coast into the future. Okay, cool. Can we agree on that? I think we're aces. But no, dude. No, this going back, dotting I's, crossing T's. It's a danger to our democracy. Of course, this is from the Dallas Morning News. We've used them a couple of times, and it's a leftist outlet, no, beyond a shadow of a doubt. This is an opinion piece, and we aren't really going to read a whole lot of it because it's mostly just drivel. But whenever I see the term our democracy, and then in the byline, another day, another foolish political gesture in Texas. If you're not going to be paying for it, and if nothing is really going to happen to it, okay, other than figuring out if there are any loopholes or any sort of cracks that are forming in the election system, you probably want to see if there's anything that can be done in order to fix that so it doesn't happen again. But nah, any look at the past is racist, sexist, homophobic, and unless you're talking about that evil gang rapist up there on the Supreme Court, we want nothing to do with taking a look at previous accusations. Okay, cool, fine. That's why they're also spurging out about Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania Republicans to introduce new election overhaul bill after governor's veto. Talked about this before as well, because there were some election integrity laws that were getting passed through the House and the Senate, and then as soon as it hits Governor Wolf's desk, he vetoed it because it's the same charge of accusations. Once again, racist, sexist, whatever, fucking suppression, and no, I run the state, and it doesn't matter what the will of the voters is because my word is law. But there's been a slight twist of events here. Pennsylvania State House Republicans will make another attempt at passing a voting overhaul bill after Democrat Governor Tom Wolf signaled he would support a measure that includes voter identification provisions. Depends on how far he's going to go. Kind of depends on how effective this bill would be. Let's take a look. House State Government Committee Chair Seth Grove, you need a longer title, my dude, on Wednesday told other lawmakers in a memo that he'll reintroduce a bill that Wolf vetoed last month. Other than proposing new voter identification requirements, the bill would move up the voter registration deadline, limit drop box usage, and would allow for pre-canvassing of mail-in ballots. Okay, fine, whatever. Grove, in a memo, noted that Wolf recently told the Philadelphia Inquirer that he isn't opposed to voter identification requirements, namely for mail-in voting. I don't think that goes far enough, but you take what you can get for the time being, and you build on it from there. While this revelation would have been more than welcomed a month ago as the General Assembly was moving HB 1300 of 2021, needs more numbers, through the legislative process, it is a productive development, Grove said, referring to the governor's interview. The Pennsylvania Voting Rights Protection Act is solely predicated on the House State Government Committee's extensive election oversight hearings. The most extensive election oversight work in the entire country, the York Republican added. And if you guys know anything about the voting history and the, I don't know, the nicest word I can use is shenanigans that have happened in the Philadelphia, greater Pennsylvania area, it's suspect to say the least. And without risking pushing too many boundaries, we'll leave it at that. Current law only requires voters in Pennsylvania to show identification when they vote for the first time, whereas the new bill proposes mandatory voter identification for every election. And according to Grove's statements, the bill will also include $3.1 million in state funding to create and manage a Bureau of Election Audits. Sounds pretty dope. State Senate President Jake Corman. That sounds like a used car salesman's name. I'm just saying, I could hear that blasting over the radio. Meanwhile, he's pimping a 95 Ranger for only $1,200, $600 down, and you can drive it away today. Told WHYY, why did you take this interview? that he's encouraged by Wolf's recent comments about negotiating and said voter identification laws are supported by a strong majority of Pennsylvanians. True, it's right up there with keeping women in women's sports and men in men's sports at about an 80% clip, regardless of whatever demographic numbers and whatever chicanery with the statistics you'd like to pull. It's a very strong issue that an overwhelming majority of people support. So fucking get on it. You have no goddamn excuse. Although Wolf signaled he's open to discussions, likely he just wants to hear from other fellow rhinos in the Senate, and then the screeching harpy calls of other Democrats, as they are known to do. Other Democrats pushed back against Grove's latest proposal. Let's see how long it takes for them to make some kind of baseless accusation based on, what do you think will come up first? Race, minorities, something like that. I'm going to go with voter suppression. I think that'll be the first thing to come up. Senate Minority Leader Jay Costa, a Democrat, told local media that he has serious concerns about the voter identification provisions and described it as a measure designed to make it more difficult for people to vote. I think I'm going to be right. Based on our experience, the last time the majority of the General Assembly tried this, it lacked broad accessibility and discriminated against vulnerable segments of the population. Oh, close. So I stand by our position on HB 1300 as it was passed, as well as an effort in 2012 that was found unconstitutional. Well, let's just not ask about your practices during the 2020 election. Oh, fuck, you actually lost the Secretary of State over it because you fucked some kids out of some money that they could have got from being fucked by some priests. Interesting. But more and even more interesting news coming out of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania decertifies county's voting system, cites violations of election code. You think they need an audit now? You think they could probably use one? Pennsylvania's top election official has decertified the voting system of rural Fulton County, different Fulton County, for future elections, saying that in an assessment by a third party had violated the Keystone State's election code. No, not in Pennsylvania. Violating a code? Color me surprised. The Pennsylvania Department of State said in a statement dated July 21st that Wake Technology Services Incorporated, a far right-wing group, might I add, access to the county's voting system undermined the chain of custody requirements and strict access limitations necessary to prevent both intentional and inadvertent tampering with electronic voting systems. You know how you just kind of avoid this entire situation? You don't use electronic voting systems. It's only a hassle, okay? It hasn't produced any easier results. It hasn't done anything that it's claimed to do by being a viable alternative for impaired or for the disadvantaged people out there to come in and vote. Frankly, personally, don't take this with any sort of credibility. This is just my internal monologue. If you aren't healthy enough to go in and vote, I don't want your opinion on matters of national importance. But then again, how hard is it to just scribble a fucking dot on a piece of paper? Somebody can help you do that, okay? You don't need to just have a fucking touchscreen pad and just, I'm voting for Biden. Fuck off. Wake, TSI, software company based in Westchester, Pennsylvania, Bestchester, am I right, guys? Had carried out an election assessment that involved its workers visiting Fulton County in December 2020 and in early February, while the company in May released a report that concluded that the election was well run. They didn't trust the election equipment. Okay, the election was well run, but not the voting equipment. Fucking what? And didn't indicate any signs of fraud in Fulton County. 5 issues of note were uncovered. No fraud. Issues of note. Okay. Including 3 related to Dominion. You don't say. Obviously. Whose electronic voting system was used in the county for the 2020 election? Well, these may seem minor. The impact on the election can be huge, Wake TSI said to the issues. At the time, Dominion disputed the report's findings. Of course they did. How are those defamation lawsuits going? We could continue down this rabbit hole, but I don't necessarily want to get flagged and have this video removed, just know that there's plenty of ammunition for that Doug Mastriano-led effort to audit the entire state of Pennsylvania, because they found it in Fulton County. It seems to be a running theme throughout the country. Anyways, guys, I thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.